CPEC stands for the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is a series of infrastructure projects that are currently under construction throughout Pakistan. It was originally valued at around $46 billion, but now that's been revised to about $62 billion. It includes a lot of projects, for example, modernization to the transportation system, numerous energy initiatives, and special economic zones are bound to be constructed. One of the more noteworthy projects in particular is the construction of a 1,100-kilometer road, which is going to connect some of the main economic centers of Pakistan, namely Gwadar to Karachi and then both of those to the north of Pakistan, which hasn't happened. And this will also be a timely revision to some of the more dilapidated road networks of Pakistan. CPEC has been argued to be one of the greatest things to happen to Pakistan since its founding in 1947. The project is widely seen to bring about a lot of employment and a lot of investment into the country from foreign entities. In fact, it would not be uncommon for you to talk to various politicians, economists, or professionals in Pakistan and have them describe CPEC in some of the most positive terms, and they view it as a wholly positive thing that is only going to improve Pakistan's status in the region as well as in the world. However, I think this is quite far from the truth. I argue that the CPEC shows a stunning lack of confidence in Pakistan as its own country that has many factors going for it, and also I argue that CPEC gives China an undue amount of influence in Pakistan's economy and Pakistan's politics. I would go as far as to compare some of the activities of CPEC and the Chinese government to those of the East India Company in the lead up to 1857, which is of course when they were disbanded. We have to remember that the first wave of British imperialism was of course economic, whereby the British East India Company landed in India and made lots of trade links and then manipulated those trade links to make sure that the governance of the region was inextricably linked to their trade. Similarly, I think there are a lot of factors which indicate that this deal is quite lopsided and seem to favour China in more ways than one, but also a lot of factors which indicate that Pakistan is giving up unnecessary amounts of sovereignty to China for the sake of short-term investment and short-term growth. I think the country would be much better served in investing in itself, in educational initiatives, in business initiatives, and not leading to this reliance or dependence on China as a hegemon in the region going forward. Because I think if Pakistan continues on the route that it's currently pursuing, it is in grave danger of becoming a satellite state of China when, in my opinion, that's completely unnecessary for factors that I will outline. So there are three major reasons why I think Pakistan should be wary in pursuing the CPEC in its current form. The first of all is the greatest fallacy, in my opinion, about it. A lot of the economists you talk to talk about the job opportunities and the employment that this project is creating, but that's simply not the case. It will not bring job opportunities for the millions of youth around Pakistan, as China isn't partnering with local companies and is in fact contracting a lot of Chinese industries. And so this myth of employment, which is a structural issue for Pakistan at the moment, is not being addressed by the CPEC. In fact, there has been an influx of Chinese workers into Pakistan, and the employment has been going only in one direction, and there are not many Pakistani labourers that are actually visible on the current sites. My second point is to address the notion of an economic corridor. The term seems to indicate that everyone involved in this project will benefit from the surplus good that this will do to their economies. However, we must analyse much more closely who is primarily going to benefit from the economic corridor and the opportunities that it affords. A way of doing this is to analyse the benefits for China of constructing this corridor within Pakistan. The first thing that comes to mind is that Chinese industries are currently facing excess capacity, and so building a 1,100-kilometer road in Pakistan is a way of shoring up those Chinese industries that are facing that surplus, and that's a way of continuing their business and continuing revenues coming in for years to come. Second of all, Pakistani politicians are keen to highlight the increase in exports that would occur if this project goes ahead, how many Pakistani materials would be needed for this road. But I would remind those politicians that there would be an equal demand for an inflow of imports, because Pakistan simply doesn't have the raw materials needed to construct 1,100 kilometers of road, but also a lot of the other projects that are inclusive in the CPEC. Third of all, we must only look as far as Sri Lanka, Tajikistan, and a lot of the Chinese initiatives in Africa to realize that countries have been saddled with debt. after Chinese projects have been left and the Chinese have left, and they have to repay the principal debt. And so Pakistan is looking at a lot of years of debt if it does go through with the entirety of CPEC. And of course the advantages of it are still obscure because we don't know how other countries will follow through with their promises or the investment initiatives that have been promised by the Chinese on their behalf. So safeguards are definitely needed to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself and Pakistan doesn't become a pseudo-satellite state for no reason at all. And other governments, in particular India's, does view the CPEC as being largely in China's favour, and that's why they have quite a negative opinion on them. Not because of, as many Pakistani politicians say, because it will improve the strength of Pakistan, but because it will of course improve the strength of their rival in the region, their greatest rival in the region, China. The third point I would make is around transparency. A lot of the agreements that people are constantly commenting on are agreements that we have not seen, the public has not seen, and many politicians have not seen. That is because the Chinese government has shrouded a lot of the contracts in a cloak of secrecy, and with an already tenuous relationship with a lot of the countries that are involved with CPEC, China has not really allowed Pakistan to have concrete guarantees for a lot of the promises that CPEC brings. And I think that's quite a dangerous way of existing, to bank on promises that are in no way guaranteed. Beyond those three reasons, I think the way the project is being brandished in Pakistan as a great achievement shows a stunning lack of belief in the country itself. Must Pakistan be content with the status of a satellite state? Must Pakistan be content with giving up such a large chunk of its sovereignty to China? I think there are so many factors within Pakistan's favour that we are completely disregarding if Pakistan pursues such a project which would give up so much. A population of 200 million people, of which are largely youthful, a human capital which is outstanding both within and in the diaspora itself. Bloomberg went as far as to say that it's one of the most underrated economies in the world. It's currently experiencing 5% growth, which is about to rival that of India and China. Poverty that has fallen by half since 2002. And also we have to remember that there are many intrinsic factors that are similar to that of India, and in fact the GDP per capita of Pakistan was identical to India's until 2008. So is it so far-fetched to believe that Pakistan can have a similar success story in the near future if some of the factors come into place? And the fact that it has nuclear power, which means that it is strategically key to a lot of the powers around the world, but also to maintaining peace within the region. So, with all those things being said, would it be so far-fetched to say that the CPEC is a waste of money and a waste of time, when that money, the same money and the same resources, should be pushed into Pakistan's system itself, into developing education, into developing health, and to developing a youth which is ready for a global economy in the 21st and 22nd century?